Hello and welcome back to the JW Thoughts channel. My name is Wally and today we are looking at the very first Watchtower from 2026, the January edition. No fancy intro, not a lot of blabbing, let's get right into it. Now to kick things off, I just wanted to talk about everyone's sartorial splendor or lack thereof, and the cover. I don't know, I didn't verify this is just off of the old working memory here, but I don't recall a cover of a Watchtower having a woman wearing a suit. So she's got the pants and the blazer combo going on here. So Watchtower, finally, they've had beards for a while now. Now we got on a cover of a Watchtower, a woman wearing a suit with the pants and everything. So that's pretty cool. I also like this guy's jacket. I hope it's a whole suit because I usually make fun of guys in their JCPenney suits, but this guy, he's doing it right. I respect it. Anyway, with all of that out of the way, this very first article got me on a bit of a rant when I first read it, and it's something that I think about every so often when it comes to spirituality. So let me read it, and then I'll have a little yappuccino here. What does it mean to be conscious of our spiritual need? The original language expression conveys the idea of being a beggar for the spirit. That phrase creates a powerful mental picture. Imagine a scraggly figure clothed in rags, crouching in the corner of a city street. He is weak from a lack of food, shunned because of his appearance, and exposed to the searing heat of day and the bitter cold of night. The beggar is keenly aware that he will need help if he is to improve his situation in life. Similarly, someone who is conscious of a spiritual need, a beggar for the spirit, will need help to improve his situation. So he is eager to take advantage of the abundant spiritual provisions that Jehovah supplies to those who love him. So this is where I really have a bone to pick. In the 35 years that I've been alive here on this planet, it's been my observation that most things are dynamic. Very few things are static. I mean, save for like Amish intercourse or a HR meeting at Chick-fil-A. Maybe those are pretty boring and static, but most things are pretty like vibrant and changing. They evolve. They're very dynamic, right? And so for Watchtower to have this just absolutely disturbingly arrogant position where they say, well, without our help, without the truth, what are you going to be? You're going to lack food. You're going to be shunned from everyone because of your appearance. You're going to be hungry. This frail little thing curled up in the streets, lying in the gutter. That's what it looks like without us. And I'm sorry, but just based off of Wally's old eyeball test here, the world isn't that simple. I don't think the only answer to someone having a spiritual need requires them being a Jehovah's Witness. And like me, I'm not a spiritual person myself, but at some level, I think that's really because I was raised a witness. When you are presented with this idea of religion and spirituality and God and Jesus and how he operates, you just kind of see this kind of dastardly douchebag. It's like that's more concerned about the whereabouts of people's genitals than he is about actually helping people. It just seems like bizarre and crazy. And you're presented with this and like, yeah, this leaves an icky taste in my mouth. So every time I think about, like religion and stuff, it just leaves a very icky taste in my mouth. And as I've grown and learned, I've realized that there's a lot of wonderful, beautiful people that might be religious or might be spiritual or whatever the case is. But this idea that Jehovah's Witnesses, and all of them do, and when I was one, I walked around with this mindset as well, that if you are not part of their club, you are going to be this spiritual beggar left out on this street, helpless and frail. And I just think like that arrogance is just really annoying, and it's a very unhealthy way to live your life. If you just walk around thinking that you have all the answers and that everything is a clear picture, it's ones and zeros, and you know the code, I think you're kind of an idiot. So, as this article continues about keeping up with your old spiritual diet, they enter Peter into the Thunderdome here, and they have a real whopper that I found pretty interesting for a couple reasons. So, let me read paragraph 8 here. Peter proved that he had faith in Jehovah by obeying the direction he received. For instance, while in the port of Joppa, Peter had a vision in which God's representative told him to slaughter and eat animals that, according to the Mosaic law, were unclean. To the Jews, that direction would have been shocking. Man, I feel like I just heard that recently. What did we just hear about shocking direction?
But then, stunningly, Jehovah directs that the Levite singers march in front of the army, singing songs of praise to Jehovah. Now, that is a very strange battle formation, isn't it, if you think about it? In fact, from a human perspective, it would be suicidal formation.
Anyway, Peter got the point. How do we know? Soon after he received the vision, 3 men sent by the Gentile Cornelius arrived and invited Peter to come and speak to their master. Normally, Peter would never have agreed to enter a Gentile's house. The Jews considered the Gentiles to be unclean, but Peter immediately accepted the new light that Jehovah had revealed to him. He preached to Cornelius and his household and had the joy of seeing them accept the truth, receive Holy Spirit, and get baptized. So, the new light, Peter, who, was a writer of light, his words are part of the biblical canon, he himself also received new light and had to accept new light. So I wonder where they possibly could be going with this. Peter's example teaches us another lesson. When we receive adjustments in our understanding of God's word, we need to be quick to adapt our thinking and actions. Only then will we remain spiritually well-fed and useful to Jehovah. So, Peter was able to accept new light via a revelation from God himself. He's seeing the face of God or an angel of his representative, however you want to think about those passages. And he sees this and it transforms the way he thinks. It's like, okay, well, man, that's pretty clear. That's new light. And they think that the application of this is for ordinary Jehovah's Witnesses to just suck the farts out of the butts of the governing body. And any little flimsy, fickle, just any type of vicissitude that pops in their little noodle, you just have to be ready to accept that. I just find that fascinating how they're using an example of someone that would have been looked at as a spiritual leader, that was getting revelation from God and saying, wow, he set a good example and, being ready to adjust. And then they're like, so you should be ready to accept whatever we say. And the conclusion I derive from that is that, well, then they must be in this Peter-like role where they are getting revelations from God. And yet they continue to remind us of what?
And also, the governing body is neither inspired nor infallible.
Honestly, I can't make heads or tails of why Jehovah's Witnesses in the big 2025 still accept this. Yes, you have to follow all of the new light just like Peter did because that was directly from God. And yet the governing body, you have to follow everything that they say, but they're not inspired or infallible. You literally just can't have it both ways. And I think this article paints a perfect picture of just why that doesn't work. It simply falls apart if what if God's representative had said, hey, no, by the way, this might not be right. The angel gives him the vision and is like, well, this is kind of subject to change. I'm not inspired. I'm not infallible, but it's my best guess. So do you really want to go and have dinner with the Gentiles? It would lead to mass confusion. So I don't understand how the governing body wants to try and play this role of oh, yes, you have to listen to us, but also, no, you don't really have to listen to us because we don't know what the hell we're saying. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about from this particular article is how, again, they have this one-size-fits-all model for spirituality. This is in paragraph 13. As we do, however, we must remember a key fact. Unlike literal clothes, it's talking about how we need to put on spiritual clothing or whatever. Literal clothes that are adjusted to fit us, we must adjust ourselves to fit the spiritual clothing that Jehovah supplies. It is only reasonable that we change who we are in order to measure up to God's requirements. So this just doesn't comport with reality. You go over the entire history of the entire planet, and do you see people all coming to similar or the same conclusions about God and spirituality? Nothing could be farther from the truth. So if God's intention was for there to be something so clear, then he's done a really crappy job at it. If you have hundreds of thousands, if not in the millions, of different variations on spirituality and the afterlife and gods and goddesses and all of these higher callings and rules, you have all of this. And God is looking down and seeing just chaos, like just absolute pandemonium happening. He's surely not going to think, well, I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's a one size fits all. How they just have to find the right one. That's not working. It's not reality. So I just find it strange that they use like this terminology. Well, no, you have to make the adjustments to fit into it, when it appears that people just kind of find what works for them. And that is just not a possibility with Jehovah's Witnesses. And that's the difference between a religion and a cult. Right there. Has nothing to do with do you fit into this? Does it work for you? Nope. You just have to be a rule follower. So I wanted to talk about one other thing about this magazine. It includes multiple articles, but I just want to throw the precursor in there that the Jehovah's Witness day-to-day life is pretty monotonous and boring. You are studying Watchtowers or Watchtower publications, so that way you can go to meetings where you study them again, and then after that you're meant to go and preach to people about the things that you are studying in those Watchtowers, and that's just a cycle that gets rinsed and repeated ad infinitum. Now, this gets very draining. After a while, you're just like, why do I want to do the same thing? It's hard to be enthusiastic and energetic about the same damn thing every single week. It just gets boring. So here in paragraph 13, in this next article, it's talking about avoiding negative thoughts. But I wanted to just talk about this because there's no escape from this boring, monotonous world. No matter what else might be going on in your life, you are always going to be hounded on by elders and constantly have it shouted from platforms that you need to stick with this routine no matter what. And this is a very extreme example of what I'm talking about. Consider the example of John, who was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer at age 39. At first, he struggled with negative feelings. How could I get sick at such a young age, he wondered. At the time, his son was just 3 years old. What helped John deal with negative emotions? Despite my fatigue, I made sure that our family maintained a regular spiritual routine, he says. We attended all the meetings, had a weekly share in the ministry, and had regular family worship even when it was difficult. Looking back, John adds, after the initial shock wears off, the nagging thoughts will be replaced by Jehovah's strength and love. Jehovah can make you strong, just as he has made me. So a 39-year-old guy with a 3-year-old son gets cancer, and the Jehovah's Witnesses want to point to him as an example of, well, if a 39-year-old that gets diagnosed with a rare form of cancer that has a 3-year-old son can make regular meetings, why can't you? Your ass can't be sitting down for a weeknight meeting? Huh? Well, what's your excuse? So I don't know if this story is fictitious. Hopefully it is. You hate to see it, but it's just so sad. There's so much to deal with in this guy's situation. No doubt it's going to affect just his day-to-day life, his work and employment, the relationship, and being able to have enough energy to be there with his kids. don't you want to reserve that limited energy that you have in the tank to like just spend and be happy with your kids and not dragging them kicking and screaming to some god-awful repetitious meeting? But no, you have to stay on this constant hamster wheel no matter what is going on in your life. And this is going to be addressed, I mean, not this specifically, but this idea that this whole Jehovah's Witness life and how it can be draining is going to be brought up later on in this magazine in a completely different article. Here we go. As Jesus' words indicate, a Christian's worship could gradually lapse into a mechanical routine. Such a person could be praying, going to meetings, and participating in the ministry, but is merely going through the motions. He or she is no longer motivated by love. So it's a problem, even if, despite how boring and hard it is, even if you're doing it, they're still not freaking happy. Like, can't you catch a break? And notice, like, I won't read the whole thing here, but I'll at least highlight a couple of them. They don't address the actual problem. They just put it on the person. Well, for example, maybe you could improve your attention at meetings. Well, maybe you. When in reality, maybe the system is broken. Maybe the meetings are just boring and repetitive and unnecessary. Why on God's green earth do we have to keep going to a midweek meeting where we learn how to become better preachers, even though most Jehovah's Witnesses will never baptize a single individual outside of their family? Ever. The vast majority of them will never come, like, even have a Bible study, let alone someone that actually becomes a Jehovah's Witness. So it's functionally useless. And yet they want you to keep doing something that is provably and demonstrably functionally useless, even if you have cancer with a 3-year-old. That is life as a Jehovah's Witness. And if that's triggering or whatever, good, because it should remind you of all of the beautiful time that you have right now to go out and do whatever the heck you want. So stop listening to me yap about the Jehovah's Witnesses and go out there and live your life. So stay safe, be kind, and don't forget that curiosity is the real fountain of youth. Now go out there and have a good ass day.